least 20 people, including 4 journalists, are reported to have been killed in an Israeli strike on a hospital in the southern Gaza Strip. A Reuters cameraman and an Associated Press journalist were among those killed in the attack at Nasser Hospital Complex. Another is reported to have worked for Al Jazeera. The Hamas-run civil defense says several people were killed in an initial strike and others in a second, which happened as rescuers attended the scene. The Israeli military said in a statement its troops had carried out a strike in the area, adding that it regrets any harm to uninvolved individuals and does not target journalists as such. Well, this comes 2 weeks after 6 journalists were killed in an Israeli targeted attack near Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. Where thousands of Australians joined pro-Palestinian rallies amid strained relations between Israel and Australia following the centre-left government's decision to recognize a Palestinian state. Palestine Action Group says more than 40 pressings took place across Australia, including large turnouts in state capitals Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. The group said around 350,000 attended the rallies nationwide, including around 50,000 in Brisbane, though police estimated the numbers there at closer to 10,000. Police did not have estimates for crowd sizes in Sydney and Melbourne. Diplomatic ties between Australia and Israel soured after Albanese's Labour government said it would conditionally recognize Palestinian statehood following similar moves by France, Britain and Canada.
That we are selling weapons components to the Israeli government. It's got to stop. And I'm excited at the sheer numbers of votes turning out right around the country. The voice of Australians is really clear. We want peace, we want sanctions on the Israeli government, we want the aid to get through, and we want those weapons components and that two-way arms trade with Israel to stop.
To discuss this detail, let's hear from international correspondent Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Marek, glad to have you join us. All right, 20 killed, including 4 journalists on a hospital, including emergency crews at the Nasser complex. What do you make of this killings?
Well, it is in many ways just another killing, of course, and therefore there have been others before, and doubtless, unfortunately, there will be others to come. The interesting aspect of these killings is that a journalist yet again died, including one from Reuters, and of course some emergency crews. It's the journalists which I think have caused the most outrage. And here what happens is the Israelis have said that they do not target journalists. They said this after the event. Unfortunately, since a great many journalists have died until now, and there was the recent episode of the Al Jazeera journalist with 4 others, we must unfortunately leave as an option the possibility that they are targeting. However, the Israelis have said they're not. The problem is, of course, there are no foreign journalists either. So every time journalists die, to put it euphemistically, there is one less report coming through as to what's actually going on in the Gaza Strip.
Well, just like you pointed out, that the deadliest journalists have been killed, around 196. And this is considered, Marek, to be a war crime. And just like you said, Israel is saying journalists are not particularly targeted, but the world is not, well, in some quarters, that is not being bought at all.
Unfortunately, Israel has really very little credibility left. People are being shot on a daily basis going to collect aid. There are targetings of journalists, it would appear, because the previous killing and this one, there is no other obvious reason why they targeted these people. And therefore, as you rightly stated, it is a war crime. But you see, the problem is that Israel, in this sense, is out of control. The only person who can bring Israel to heel in any way is President Donald Trump, that is to say, America. In the absence of any directives from President Donald Trump, Israel apparently has no self-restraint. It's not obvious there is any. And it would unfortunately appear to be the case that more such must be expected. And the fact that it is a war crime, Israel simply ignores. There is actually a warrant out for Benjamin Netanyahu. And so what? It carries on as before, and Israel shows no sign of being remotely interested in what world opinion has to say. However, the world opinion has spoken, and hopefully, if every such time journalists die, this has brought Israel's attention, they may cease to target them if indeed that is what they are doing.
Then, now you've mentioned Trump, what do you make of the fact that there is no pushback from the White House or from Trump?
Yes, unfortunately, President Donald Trump has given Israel a carte blanche, it would appear. And he, unlike previous presidents, including the last one, President Biden, seemingly has just ceased to make any comments, no matter what event occurs, even if it is seen as an atrocity. It is not clear whether President Donald Trump has any interest even in whether Israel were to execute more doubtful actions or not. And therefore, Israel is left to its own devices. And unfortunately, as the history of this entire war has shown, that is insufficient in the sense that some of the actions that Israel has carried out are at the very least questionable.
As well, Israel has continued not to allow journalists independent coverage.
This is quite serious. The implications, of course, which springs to everybody's mind, is there's something that they're doing they want to hide. There are the only journalists who work under extremely dangerous conditions. It has to be said right now, a journalist by vocation is easily as dangerous as being a soldier, arguably more so if you're working in areas like the Gaza Strip. And therefore, without independent verification, one of the problems is that were Israel to actually carry out any pleasant actions, there's no way of verifying it. To date, we have no way of telling why so many people have died queuing up for food. The very notion of there being no foreign journalists, in fact, runs completely counter to Israel calling itself a democracy. It also, and here comes the worst aspect, and this is, of course, shown on your screen right now, gives rise to the opinion that the Hamas declarations of famine are accurate because there is really no other way of judging except by such pictures as you see right now. We hope, of course, that what Israel and this American shadowy agency that distributes the food, that they are distributing the food, and we hope that no famine will occur. But there's literally no way of verifying what's going on without foreign journalists. And that is unlikely to occur in the immediate future. So we're down to those very brave journalists who do venture there.
And then, Marek, there's this elephant in the room. A week after Israel hasn't spoken a word on the Qatari-Egypt proposal, which Hamas has accepted concerning a peace deal or ceasefire.
Yes, that is indeed an elephant in the room, and there appear to be no fewer than three explanations. First of all, Israel's totally uninterested in this deal, totally, as would appear from the statements from Benjamin Netanyahu's allies in government, where one of them stated the people in Gaza can either die of hunger or submit, which is a kind of pitiless, merciless statement, to say the least, and therefore the hostages have no interest. Two, Netanyahu is actually, as he sometimes said, ready to negotiate. It seems to be full of vim. Or three, he himself is very confused. Just recently, there appear to be different messages coming from President Benjamin Netanyahu supporting either the first or the second of these options, which does indicate confusion, and therefore, as a result, would appear he lost the plot. However, in this situation, there's only one way to analyze it. Look at the brute facts. The brute facts are Israel's about to invade, and to some degree has already invaded. So it would appear the first option is the one to go for, and that President Netanyahu has no interest in whether the hostages survive or not. He wants Gaza conquered, and has incidentally also stated that Gaza City will be leveled unless the Gazans agree to the Israeli demands. So that is the most obvious option of these, and therefore the Egypt-Qatari proposal without backing from America is unlikely to actually be successful, or even for that matter be debated.
You talk there now about negotiations, and Netanyahu says he's starting negotiations for the release of hostages. Does this sound like double speak to you, refusing to say jack about Hamas and acceptance of the truce deal, and this talk of negotiations? Does it make sense to you?
Yes, if we accept the first option, they're going to invade Gaza City and have absolutely no interest in the negotiations. And this is the one which is consistent with the army now being deployed on the outskirts of Gaza City and, in fact, already within it to a small degree. Then it follows that what Netanyahu is doing about these negotiations is doublespeak. It is a way of trying to fool his local electorate, trying to show that he is, in fact, interested, whereas he is not. It is most unfortunate, but that is, in fact, the only analysis which works at present, which is a pity, because if the invasion goes ahead, then the hostages almost certainly will be lost, which is a pity considering that Hamas has agreed finally to what was initially, please note, the American plan by Wickoff. And it's a pity that President Donald Trump at this point does not press what is ultimately his own plan.
Well, talk coming from Israel, actually the Gaza's Civil Defense Agency, the spokesperson of the Israeli army says that an inquiry is to be conducted immediately to understand the circumstances of what happened and how it happened after 5 journalists that we're talking about now were among 20 people killed by Israeli strikes on the Nasser complex in Gaza. Do you think anything will come out of this? Is Israel just trying to, would you say, a semblance of doing something? What do you think?
Yes, unfortunately, the IDF is not known for carrying out analyses or investigations concerning its actions against Palestinians. You've only got to go to the West Bank to realize that it's virtually every week, often more often than that, that an incident occurs in which Palestinians are died or lose property or whatever. And the IDF, insofar as involved, doesn't investigate anything, nor does the Israeli judiciary. It follows that the Palestinians are, if you like, it's a free season for them. And the only reason why they're worried is because journalists, one of which was from Reuters, please note, being hit is undoubtedly a PR blow. I think in their case, judging by the past, it's unlikely anything will come out of this investigation, except hopefully, as Israelis see it, to smooth world opinion. Please note the Israelis are capable of doing analyses. That's not the point. When, for example, Hamas attacked those years ago and took all those hostages and killed all those Israelis, the report up till now, though it hasn't considered everything, please note, but insofar as was written within the boundaries it was set by Netanyahu, was a good report. So therefore they are capable of doing it. It's just that obviously they don't want to when it's just mere, in their eyes, Palestinians who are dying.
Now, before I let you go, what do you make of the little or no condemnation whatsoever from the international community on the killing of journalists who are turning out to be somewhat of a seemingly endangered species?
Yes, it takes a brave man to be a journalist now in Gaza. It is a very risky occupation. And the world opinion, it is true, is very sotto voce. And this is one of the aspects of the whole conflict, that the Palestinians have been very much left, as indeed, please note, was the case with Jews in Nazi Germany. There was no condemnation from the world at any point. In this respect, very little has been learned from the previous disasters like this, and it would be nice to see the West, if not America, at least Western Europe, condemning this action. No such action, no such complaint has been made, and therefore one assumes the IDF has generated the sentence, that it will look into it, and so the matter will simply be forgotten.
One just hopes that the world will speak up. Famine in Palestine, journalists being killed, war crime, and all that. One hopes that all this will come to an end somehow, some way. Thank you so much, international analyst there, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz, on what is happening in Gaza.